The evening had been peaceful. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet a person learns to love after years of raising children, working long days, and caring for everyone except themselves. The woman, let's call her the mother, was sitting in her small living room, sipping warm tea and listening to the faint hum of the refrigerator. She wasn't expecting anyone, and she certainly wasn't expecting trouble. But then, there was a knock, not a normal knock. Not a hello, are you home knock. It was hard, loud, and uneven, like the person on the other side wasn't trying to get attention, but trying to break the door down with their bare hands. At first, she froze. The teacup shook slightly in her hand. Then came the shouting. A woman's voice, angry, breathless, demanding. The mother recognized the voice instantly, and her heart dropped into her stomach. It was her daughter-in-law. She moved closer to the door, but didn't open it. Instead, she listened. Her daughter-in-law was shouting things that didn't even make sense, half accusations, half insults, and all filled with frustration. It was as if something had snapped inside her. The mother knew her daughter-in-law had a temper, but this was something else. Open the door, she shouted. I know you're in there. The mother took a deep breath and stepped back. She didn't want to open the door because she didn't want things to escalate. She wasn't scared of her daughter-in-law physically, she was scared of the chaos that always followed her. The arguments, the yelling, the stress her son always tried to hide. She reached for her phone with trembling fingers. Should she call her son first? Should she call the police? Should she say something through the door? Before she could decide, the pounding got louder. Bam, bam, bam. Each hit made the door vibrate. Each shout became sharper and more desperate. The mother whispered to herself, what happened now? She finally spoke through the closed door, trying to keep her voice steady. Please calm down. Tell me what's going on. But the answer was more curses, more shouting, more banging. It was clear her daughter-in-law was not here to talk. She was here to release anger, or fear, or something she couldn't control. Just then, the mother heard footsteps, fast, heavy footsteps coming up the driveway. She backed away from the door again, this time, truly frightened. Who was coming now? And then she heard her son's voice. Out of breath, panicked, Mom, don't open the door. She rushed to the window and peeked out. Her son was running toward the porch, holding something in his hand. For a split second, her heart stopped. It was a crowbar, not raised, not pointed at anyone. He wasn't threatening anyone. He was holding it like a tool, like someone who came prepared for something he didn't understand but knew he had to handle. What is going on? The mother whispered, and that's when she saw it on his face. Fear, real fear. Something had happened earlier, something she didn't know about. Something that had driven her daughter-in-law into a state of panic and forced her son to run here as if someone's life depended on it. What she didn't know was that the night was far from over, and the truth behind this moment was something none of them had ever talked about, something that had been building for months. The mother rushed to unlock the side window just enough to speak through it. Her son reached the porch at the same moment, breathless, bending forward with one hand on his knee while holding the crowbar in the other. He wasn't using it. He wasn't waving it. He looked more scared than anyone else there. Her daughter-in-law turned toward him, eyes wide, face flushed, voice cracking as she shouted again, not as loudly as before, but still full of anger. What are you doing here? She yelled. Why did you run away from the house like that? The son didn't respond immediately. He lifted his free hand, signaling for her to calm down, but she didn't. She kept arguing, pacing in front of the door, her emotions boiling over. The mother could see clearly now her daughter-in-law wasn't just angry. She looked overwhelmed, exhausted. Something deep inside her was out of balance. And tonight, it had finally erupted. The mother pushed the window open a little more. Please, she said softly. What happened? Her son raised his eyes toward her. His expression alone made her chest tighten. It wasn't anger. It wasn't frustration. It was worry, Mom, he said. I'm sorry. I didn't want you to get pulled into this. I didn't know she'd come here. His daughter-in-law cut him off immediately. You didn't know, because you never listen. You don't care how I feel. You left me alone when everything fell apart. The son's shoulders dropped. Everything didn't fall apart, he said quietly. We just had an argument. The mother listened closely. The words "just an argument" didn't match the scene she was witnessing. Something big had triggered this moment. She asked again, "Tell me what happened." Her son looked down, rubbing his forehead, trying to form the right words. Finally, he admitted, "We were supposed to go to that family dinner tonight. The one at her uncle's house. I told her I wasn't feeling well. I just needed a quiet night. But she thought I was lying. She said I was avoiding her family again." His voice softened further. "I wasn't avoiding them. I've been tired. Work's been heavy. She's been stressed. We've both been on edge." Her daughter-in-law crossed her arms. "You always have excuses. You never think about what I need." The mother's heart ached listening to them. This wasn't a story about anger. It was a story about two people carrying too much weight and not knowing where to put it. Her son continued. "She got upset. I walked out of the house to cool down. I grabbed the crowbar from the car because," he sighed deeply, "because the trunk gets stuck and I needed something to pry it open. I wasn't trying to scare anyone." The mother almost laughed from relief. She had feared the worst. But it made sense. He worked with tools often, and the crowbar was simply something he'd picked up without thinking. But his daughter-in-law didn't see it that way earlier. "When he walked out holding that thing," she said shakily, "I thought he was leaving me again. I thought he was done with us." Her voice cracked. This time, it wasn't anger, it was fear. The mother finally understood. The daughter-in-law wasn't banging on the door because she wanted to cause trouble. She was scared of losing the one person she depended on. The son stepped closer to her. "I didn't leave you," he said softly. "I just needed air." She sank onto the porch step, covering her face with her hands. The streetlight cast a dim glow on her shoulders, making her look small and tired. The mother opened the front door at last, not because she felt threatened, but because the real danger was letting the misunderstanding grow bigger, and now that the door was open, she knew the deeper truth was about to come out. The truth behind all the pressure, the miscommunication, and the fears they hadn't been honest about. This night was only just beginning. The moment the mother opened the door, the air shifted. The porch light cast a warm glow around all three of them, replacing the tension with a quiet heaviness no one knew how to break. Her daughter-in-law sat on the porch step, shoulders trembling slightly, while her son stood nearby, holding the crowbar loosely at his side, as if he suddenly realized how strange the whole situation looked. The mother didn't rush forward. She didn't scold. She didn't take sides. She simply stepped aside and said, "Come inside. Both of you, please." Her voice was soft, but steady enough to pull them in. The daughter-in-law hesitated for a moment, wiping her face with the sleeve of her jacket. She looked embarrassed, almost ashamed, as she stood up slowly and walked into the house. Her son followed, setting the crowbar gently by the door, as if leaving behind a symbol of the chaos. Once inside, the mother guided them to the living room. The lights were warm and welcoming, nothing like the loud scene from a few minutes before. The teacup still sat on the small table, the steam long gone. She took a deep breath, sat across from them, and finally said, "Now, talk to me. Both of you?" The daughter-in-law looked down, twisting her fingers nervously. She seemed calmer now, but still fragile. "I didn't mean to scare you," she whispered. I felt like he was walking away from me." Again, the son ran a hand through his hair. "I wasn't walking away," he repeated gently. "I just needed space to think." The mother observed them closely. She knew couples fought, but this felt deeper than a simple disagreement. It felt like something had been building up quietly, and tonight it finally overflowed. She leaned forward and asked, "Why did you think he was leaving you?" Her daughter-in-law swallowed hard. "Because every time we argue, he shuts down. He pulls back. He walks outside. He doesn't talk to me. And I start to think, maybe I'm too much for him. Maybe he regrets marrying me." The son sighed heavily, shaking his head, but not in anger and regret. "That's not true," he said. I never regret being with you. Not even for a second. Then why don't you tell me what's going on with you? She asked, her voice small. Why don't you say anything? The mother could see the pain in both of them. They weren't enemies. They were two people hurt in different ways, unable to meet in the middle. The son finally answered, because I didn't want you to worry. You already deal with so much. Work, your family, your health. I didn't want to add my stress to yours. She blinked in surprise. You think keeping things from me helps me? He looked away. I thought I was protecting you. The mother stepped in gently. Sometimes hiding how you feel creates more fear than the truth. Her son nodded slowly, realizing she was right. Then the daughter-in-law spoke again, her voice trembling. I came here tonight because I thought he was going to pack his bags. I saw him holding that crowbar, leaving the house, and I panicked. I thought he was grabbing things from the car to leave. I thought he was done with me. The mother finally understood it wasn't the crowbar. It wasn't the yelling. It wasn't the knocking. It was fear. Fear of losing someone she loved. Fear of breaking apart. Fear of not being enough. The mother reached out and placed her hand gently on her daughter-in-law's. You're not too much, she said softly. You're overwhelmed, and he's overwhelmed. You both need to talk, not run, not assume. Both of them sat quietly, letting her words sink in. But the mother knew. There was still one more layer to uncover, the deeper reason behind her son's exhaustion, the stress he kept hiding. The reason he had been so distant lately, a secret she didn't know he'd been carrying. And in the next moments, he finally decided to reveal it. For a long moment, the living room was completely still. The mother waited patiently, knowing her son was fighting with himself, deciding whether to stay quiet or finally let the truth out. His daughter-in-law watched him too, her hands folded tightly in her lap, as if bracing herself for whatever he was about to say. He rubbed his palms together, staring at the floor. Then he finally spoke. There's something I should have told you both earlier, he said quietly. I didn't want to, because I didn't want anyone to worry. The mother's eyebrows lowered with concern. His wife straightened in her seat. What is it? The mother asked gently. He exhaled slowly. For the past few months, I've been having trouble at work. His wife's eyes widened. What kind of trouble? He looked up at her, guilt tugging at his face. I didn't get the promotion I was hoping for. They gave it to someone else. And instead of getting fewer hours, like they promised, they put me on even more shifts. I've been working overtime almost every week. I've been exhausted, drained, and embarrassed. The mother felt her heart clench. She had noticed he seemed tired, but he always brushed it off. She never imagined it was this bad. His wife whispered, Why didn't you tell me? He shrugged weakly. Because you've been stressed too. With your own job. With everything happening with your family. I didn't want to add more weight to your shoulders. But I'm your wife, she said softly. Your partner. You're supposed to talk to me. He nodded, tears almost forming in his eyes. I know, and I'm sorry. I just didn't want you thinking I wasn't good enough. Or that you married someone who can't keep up. Her expression softened instantly. Oh, she said quietly. So the distance wasn't about me. It was about you. He nodded again. It was never about you. The mother leaned in a little. Why didn't you say something tonight, before you walked out? He sighed. Because I felt like I couldn't breathe. The moment she mentioned the dinner, and her family, and expectations, I just felt like everything was too much. I stepped outside so I wouldn't say something out of frustration. His wife lowered her gaze, guilt filling her expression. I thought you were ignoring me, like you didn't care about my feelings. He shook his head firmly. I care, that's the problem. I care so much, that sometimes I don't know how to share what's weighing on me. Her eyes started to glisten. The mother watched them silently, letting the emotions settle. She knew arguments often weren't about the words spoken in the moment, but about all the unspoken fear and stress underneath. The son continued. Voice steady but tired. When I left the house, I grabbed the crowbar from the car because the trunk was jammed. I was going to take out some old tools to fix the shed tomorrow. That's all. I wasn't running away. I wasn't packing anything. His wife let out a shaky laugh of relief. I really jumped to the worst conclusion, didn't I? He gave a small smile. You were scared. I get it. But, I promise, I wasn't going anywhere. The mother placed a warm hand on both of theirs. You two need to stop trying to protect each other by hiding things. That's how misunderstandings grow. They both nodded at the same time, almost like children being gently corrected. Then the daughter-in-law asked something quietly, something that pulled the mother's attention sharply. Is there more? Is that the only thing bothering you? Her husband hesitated, which meant yes, there was something else, something he hadn't said. He looked at his mother. Then, at his wife. And finally, with a heavy breath, he prepared to reveal the last part of the truth, the part he had been too afraid to say out loud. Her son sat back on the sofa, elbows on his knees, hands clasped tightly together. It was clear, now whatever he was about to say wasn't small. His wife watched him with rising worry, and the mother leaned in ever so slightly. Waiting without pushing him, he finally lifted his head. There is something else, he admitted quietly, something I've been carrying alone. His wife whispered, please just tell us. He took a long breath, as if gathering strength from the air around him. I've been worried about us, he finally said. About our marriage, about the way we argue, about how quickly things get heated between us, about how I shut down, and how you panic. His wife's lips parted slightly. Stunned, he continued, every time we fight, I feel like I'm failing you, failing both of us. And every time you get upset, I feel like I'm making your life harder. I don't want to be a problem for you. I don't want you to regret being with me. She shook her head immediately, tears welling again. I've never regretted anything. He gave a sad smile. I know you say that, but when I see you crying after our arguments, when I hear the way you sometimes blame yourself, it scares me. I don't want to be the reason you feel broken. The mother felt her heart twist. She had never heard her son speak this openly, so scared of hurting someone he loved. His wife wiped a tear with the back of her hand. But you're not hurting me, she said softly. We're both hurting each other by not talking. He nodded, eyes fixed on the floor. That's exactly what scares me. If we keep going like this, I'm afraid we'll drift apart. She gasped quietly, her breath catching. You think we might end up separating? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pressed his palms together, thinking deeply. I'm afraid that if we don't fix the way we communicate, he said slowly, we'll reach a point where we can't fix anything at all. The room fell silent, not the cold kind of silence, but the heavy one that carries truth. His wife took a deep breath and stood up slowly. Instead of walking away, she walked toward him and knelt down in front of him, taking his hands in hers. Look at me, she said softly. He did. We're not falling apart, she told him. We're just tired, overworked, stressed, and stubborn. A small laugh slipped from her lips. We're both terrible at saying what we feel, but we're not enemies. We're a team. He gave a faint, relieved smile. I want us to be. We already are, she replied, squeezing his hands. We just stopped showing it. The mother watched them with quiet warmth. She had always hoped they would someday reach this kind of honesty, because beneath all the noise, she knew they truly cared for each other. His wife then turned toward the mother and said, I shouldn't have come banging on your door like that. I let my fear take over. I'm so sorry. The mother shook her head. You were scared. People do strange things when they're scared. What matters is what you do next. Her daughter-in-law exhaled shakily. I want us to be better. Her son nodded. Me too. The mother leaned forward slightly. Talking is the first step. And now that everything is out in the open, you both have a chance to heal instead of hide. The couple looked at each other. Something in their expressions had changed. Softer, warmer, less defensive, but there was still one more part of the night left, a moment that would not only bring them together, but finally allow all three of them to breathe again. A moment that would change the way they understood each other, and it was coming next. The mother stood and gently motioned for both of them to follow her into the kitchen. She didn't say why. She didn't need to. They trusted her, and she wanted them away from the tension of the living room, the place where all the heavy words had dropped. The soft overhead light filled the kitchen with a warm glow. The mother poured fresh tea, placing 3 cups on the table. Her son and daughter-in-law sat next to each other, not touching, but not distant anymore either. Just calmer. Drink, the mother said kindly. Sometimes warmth helps the heart settle. Her daughter-in-law took a sip first, her hands still trembling. Her son followed, shoulders relaxing slightly with the familiar comfort. After a moment of quiet, the mother spoke gently. I want you both to understand something. Relationships survive honesty, not silence. Survive fear, not shouting. Survive storms, not running. Her son lowered his eyes. His wife nodded slowly, wiping a small tear. The mother continued, you two love each other. That's clear. But love needs care. Not secrets. Not guessing. Not trying to protect each other by hiding pain. Her daughter-in-law swallowed hard. I know. I let my fear control me tonight. Her son turned to her. And I let my stress push you away. They weren't words said out of obligation. They were real, sincere. The daughter-in-law slowly reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined naturally. Like they finally remembered they were on the same side. She said quietly, I'm sorry for assuming the worst. I got scared, and I acted without thinking. He shook his head. I should have told you sooner about everything. Work, the stress, the way I was feeling. I kept it inside because I didn't want to disappoint you. You don't disappoint me, she whispered. Not ever. The mother smiled softly. She had seen misunderstandings break families apart before, but she also knew some moments like this night could stitch people back together stronger than they were before. Her son took a deep breath and said, I don't want us to keep repeating this cycle. I want us to talk. Really talk. Even when it's uncomfortable, and I want to listen, his wife added. Not jump to conclusions. Not panic. I want to understand you better. He nodded with gratitude. The mother leaned back in her chair, letting the moment settle. Good, she said, because marriage isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing. That sentence seemed to soften something in both of them. A few minutes passed in peaceful silence, broken only by the quiet sipping of tea. Then the daughter-in-law gave a small, embarrassed smile. So, maybe banging on the door wasn't the best way to start this conversation. Her son let out a soft laugh, his first in hours. It definitely got us here fast. The mother chuckled. Well, next time, just knock like a normal person. They all laughed together, then, the tension finally melting away. The house no longer felt heavy, it felt like a home again. After a bit, the son stood and stretched. We should head back. We'll talk more tonight. Calmly this time, his wife nodded, looking at him with new tenderness. I'd like that. Before they left, the daughter-in-law hugged the mother gently. Thank you, she whispered, for opening the door, and for helping us open ours. The mother hugged her back. Any time. Your family. That's what we do. Her son hugged her too, lingering just a little longer than usual. It was his silent way of saying thank you for being the calm when everything else was loud. They walked out together, leaving the crowbar behind by the door. It wasn't needed anymore. As the mother watched them drive away, she felt a deep sense of peace. Tonight had been chaotic, scary, unexpected, but it had also been the night they finally understood each other. A night that turned knocking, shouting, and fear into honesty, healing, and a new beginning. And sometimes, she thought, closing the door on the problem is not the answer. Opening it is.